Hi, this is Ken of Rist Innovations, and I have a special video for you today. For the 2022 holiday season, I have chosen 12 gifts that I think every woodworker would want under their tree. Now, you may be familiar with some of the items on the list, but I am confident that I have a few surprises for you that you may not know about. I highly recommend that you watch until the end because the 12th gift in particular could have the biggest impact on your woodworking skills, no matter what your experience. Now, I have no affiliation with any of the products that I'm about to share. I bought them with my own money, and in some cases I've been using them for many years. So let's get started. Number one is the iGauge digital alignment gauge for your table saw. This costs $70 and it works really well because it mounts into your miter slot of your table saw, and it can measure the alignment of your blade to your miter slot as well as your fence to your miter slot. So let's take a look at it in action. Here I'm zeroing out the alignment gauge against a spot on the blade. Then I rotate the blade and I take a reading at the same spot on the blade. The goal is to have the dimension to be less than 5/1000ths of an inch. Now I'm zeroing out the alignment gauge against the fence. Then I'll take another measurement at the other end of the fence, and the goal is to have the dimension to be less than 5/1000ths of an inch. Number two is the Wrangler Thin Strips Table Saw Jig. It has this tooling on the bottom that mounts into your miter slot, and it's adjustable, and it allows you to cut different widths of thin strips on the left side of your blade, and it costs $40 on Amazon. So let's see it in action. The left side of the workpiece is touching the jig, which sets the strip width. Once the first strip is cut, the fence and workpiece are moved until the fresh edge of the workpiece touches the jig and the cut is repeated. Number three is the Cat's Moses Stop Block. This is made out of rigid aluminum and it has two knobs to attach it to your fence. It also has a fine adjustment knob. This costs $39 on the Cat's Moses website. So now let's take a look at it on my sliding table. This is the Cat's Moses stop block, and it is really secured well to the fence using these two knobs. It also has this nice feature here where it has this fine adjustment so you can sneak up on your cut. What I mean by that is if you've cut it and it's a little long, all you need to do is loosen this little brass knob and push the red portion towards the fence and then tighten it, and then you'll be able to cut a little bit more off your piece and get it exactly where you want it. Number four is the bow featherboard. This has a very clever design using this high density foam and these interlocking fingers to help prevent kickback. It's mounted in the miter slot of your table saw and it costs $35. So now let's take a look at it on my table saw. Here's our bow featherboard. It's mounted on the table by the tooling that goes into the miter slot, and then it's adjustable. So in this case I would push and put some pressure in this point, then tighten it down, and then I would rotate it to put pressure on the front and tighten that down. Now when I push the part through the workpiece, you can see how the fingers are keeping the workpiece up against the fence. And if I try to pull back, look at the motion that these little fingers actually interlock and prevent the workpiece from coming back, and that really will help prevent kickback. Number five are these tool holders made by Chris and his company called A Glimpse Inside, based in Florida. He ships them flat pack for $15 each, and it only takes a few minutes to assemble them. And this is his primary way of supporting his family. So I always like to be able to support fellow small woodworkers. Number six are these dramatic tool holders made by Wrangler, and they cost $50 for a pack of 5. And they're used to mount on any shelf, which would allow you to store your pneumatic tools and then quickly disconnect them. So let's take a look at both these as well as the tool holders by A Glimpse Inside on my French cleat wall behind me. Here's my French cleat wall and my charging station that was inspired by Chris from A Glimpse Inside. And here are Chris's tool holders that I'm using to hold my battery charged tools. And then down below are my pneumatic tool holders that are provided by the Tool Wrangler. And as a bonus, I want to show you that Chris also provides French cleat shelf brackets, and these work out really well. My little Santa helper is not available tonight because she is ill, but I did record a very brief conversation with her earlier this week.
Hey honey, what do we say we're going to spend on your tools this Christmas?
Honey, you know we really can't put a price on my happiness. Number 7 are these Jessom stock guides. They're mounted to your table saw fence to help keep your workpiece tight up against the fence and help reduce kickback. Now, they're a little pricey at $255 for the set, but they are very high quality. Now, if that will break your budget, then there is another alternative which is called the Board Buddies by Woodstock, and these cost $80 each. And I've been using these for years until I just recently upgraded to the Jessom. So now let's take a look at the Jessom stock guides on my table saw fence. So now let me show you this close-up shot of the effectiveness of how this 5-degree roller tilted towards the fence works. I've intentionally left a large gap here between the fence and the workpiece. So now I'm just going to push forward, and you can see how the roller causes the workpiece to be drawn towards the fence. And then once it gets to the fence, it maintains that tight fit as it continues through the cut. So it's a very effective design. Number 8 is this diamond stone made by Trend. It has 2 different grits, a 300 coarse grit on one side and a finer 1000 grit on the other side. And it costs $116. Now, diamond stones last far longer than any other type of stone, so they are well worth it. Here's my sharpening station, and here's the Trend diamond sharpening stone with the 300 grit side facing up. So for a new chisel, I would work on the back side first, and I would use this lapping fluid from Trend. Once the 300 grit has been completed, I would rotate it over, complete the process using the 1000 grit size, clean everything up, and then from there I would continue by using ceramic stones of 2000, 5000, 12,000. And once I'm finished with that, then I would repeat the whole process working on the beveled portion of the chisel. Number 9 is this push block made by Andrew Shimanoff Tool Designs. It has a very comfortable handle, and it keeps your hand far away from the table saw blade. In addition, it has this special little spring-loaded plunger that automatically adjusts to your workpiece size. And this costs $30. So now let's take a look at it in action on my table saw. Let's talk about several of the nice features that I like about this push block. Number 1, it has a very comfortable grip handle. Number 2, my hand is far away from the saw blade. Number 3, it has this rubber grip on the bottom. And number 4, it has the plunger here that is able to grab the workpiece as I push it through. So you'll hear this audible click, and now it's just a matter of pushing the workpiece through. Number 10 is this Magswitch Featherboard. It has these very strong magnets that attach to your table saw, and it costs $62. So now let's take a look at it on my table saw. Here's our Magswitch Featherboard, and it has these really strong magnets that are attached to the table saw. So how I mount it is I put a little bit of pressure on this front one, rotate the magnet, locks in, then I apply some pressure up here, rotate this magnet, so now it's locked in and it's applying pressure against the workpiece, pushing it up against the fence. And the only thing I'll point out is it is a little bit easier to pull the workpiece back compared to the bow featherboard. However, it still is serving its purpose, and that is to keep the workpiece tightly up against the fence. Number 11 is the Woodpeckers Saddle Tsquare. Now what's unique about this is the fence and the blade all have the same dimension. So you can draw a line on your face of your workpiece and follow it right along down the side of the edge of your workpiece. Now with most Woodpeckers tools, they're not cheap. This one is $65. But I do use this thing all the time. So now let's take a look at it in action. The nice thing about this Saddle Tsquare is that I can draw a line on the face of my workpiece, and because the fence and the saddle are at the same dimension, I can also transfer that line down onto the edge of the workpiece. The other nice feature is that it has all these different holes at different increments, and so for instance, if I wanted to draw a 1-inch dimension from the edge to the face here, then I can just put that in there and draw the line accordingly. And finally, number 12, the most important one, is a gift certificate for you to be able to take a class at your local woodworking school or craft center. This by far will accelerate your learning curve on any particular subject that you happen to be studying, because you'll be taught by professionals. So for instance, I recently took a class in Kimoko from a professional woodworker named Matt Kenny, and he actually wrote a book on the subject. So I would have never been able to learn as quickly as I did without his instruction. So I highly recommend that you consider taking classes to expand your skill level. So I will list several woodworking schools in the description below. Well, those are my top 12 holiday gift recommendations for every woodworker. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, I would ask that you would consider subscribing to my channel. And if you're interested in seeing any other videos on table saw safety, you can click the link.